I wasn't attacked or raped or coerced or blackmailed. They tried to shove me in the Me Too box to further their own agenda. And first of all, I didn't want any part of that because it's not the truth and I'm not a victim.
Pause! There she is, right there on video back in 2018, admitting the fact that none of it's true. Look at Bill Maher's face. He doesn't even know what is going on. How are we having a trial about this? Stormy Daniels is a liar. Proven.
All right, folks. So as you know, Donald Trump continues to be stuck in court over this bogus hush money trial with Stormy Daniels. And needless to say, the case continues to fall apart by the day. We are even now at the point where liberal CNN anchors, obviously very anti-Trump people, are now admitting that the entire thing is not going very well politically for the Democrats. But even on top of that, arguing that the prosecution is bogus and politically motivated to begin with. And that's a very shocking thing to hear from, say, CNN anchors whose entire job is to essentially A-log Donald Trump. But just as a refresher, let's play one of those clips yesterday where CNN is admitting that this entire thing sucks. Check it out.
Meanwhile, Republicans seem to be uniting behind Trump. Whatever opposition he faced in the primaries has largely melted away. And the trials against him keep him in the spotlight, infuriate his base, who sees him as a martyr, and even may serve to make him the object of some sympathy among people in general who believe that his prosecutors are politically motivated. This happens to be true, in my opinion. I doubt the New York indictment would have been brought against a defendant whose name was not Donald Trump.
So yeah, be sure to check out yesterday's video if you want the full story there. But in today's news, we have none other than Bill Maher potentially actually giving Trump a bunch of legal help in his defense in court. Now, that said, I'm not sure Trump exactly needs the help, considering, again, the case is not very strong. It's all really going to come down to how biased and corrupt is the jury and the jury selection. Because I think obviously any fair trial he would get would be an instant acquittal, but we know it's New York, and so I think that's their play here. But check this out. Bill Maher may have just exposed that the testimony that Stormy Daniels gave last week in court, where she borderline tried to say that Trump kind of sexually assaulted her or got kind of rapey, or the entire situation made her feel very coerced or uncomfortable, may have been completely false, because that's not what she said to Bill Maher when Bill had her on the show a couple of years ago. And so this may be straight up proof that Stormy was actually giving false testimony to the court. Regardless, it may be something that could be used in Trump's defense. And check this out. This is very ironic, given that of all people, it is Trump deranged Bill Maher that may have just screwed over the Democrat legal case in court.
And first I asked her why she had sex with Trump. Listen to that, and then listen to what she says after that, and then we're going to talk about the trial, because it's quite a variance of what she said to me in 2018. Why did you Donald Trump?
I have no idea.
Okay, but you say it's not a Me Too case.
It is not a Me Too case. I mean, I wasn't assaulted. I wasn't attacked or raped or coerced or blackmailed. They tried to shove me in the Me Too box to further their own agenda. And first of all, I didn't want any part of that because it's not the truth and I'm not a victim in that regard.
That's not what she's saying now. She's talking about he was bigger and blocking the way. It's all the Me Too buzzwords. She said there was a power imbalance of power for sure. My hands were shaking so hard. She said she blacked out. Blacked out? She's a porn star. I don't think sex...
That doesn't mean she's been subjected to the likes of Donald Trump. I might black out too.
Do you really think she blacked out? I mean, a porn star is used to having sex with people she does not know. That's the job. It's kind of like Stormy Bob Stormy.
So there you have it. We may have just found proof that Stormy was giving false testimony to the court. Now, in fairness, will anything be done about it? Will the court even try to look into it? No, we know it's highly political. We know it's highly corrupt. I guess she could also use the legal argument that she was lying back then, or she was lying to Bill Maher, which she could say, hey, it's technically not under oath. It's very hard to go back several decades and figure out what the truth was. I don't think there were exactly cameras in that hotel room or whatever. But again, I just find it to be kind of funny. You see Bill Maher's face there. He does not want to admit that. He does not want to have to point this out. But look, he just realizes, like many other people, like even a lot of liberals, that this entire thing is a bogus sham political hit job. And Bill's not happy about that. I don't think any of these people are happy about that. But they are now having to come to grips with reality. And I think on a bigger picture, the entire idea they had of using lawfare against Trump is falling apart. Because not only is this case falling apart, but you may say, hey, what about the other trials? What about some of the federal indictments? Well, the issue with those is that if you look at some of these timelines, Trump has been getting a fair degree of legal victories where they keep getting pushed back and delayed. And we're now at the point it is looking very unlikely that any of the trials will happen this year, which means after Trump gets the New York case out of the way, which is obviously the weakest one, he probably will be able to ride straight into November, not have to deal with any of the indictments or any of the court cases, and that's it. Right? He'll be home free, at least until the election, and we'll have to see if he wins there. But even CNN and James Carville here were out there publicly admitting that. And this is another case, of course, of the Democrats having to come to grips with the reality that this little ace card they had is actually not going to work. Check it out.
Know that this might be maybe the only trial that we see of Donald Trump this year. Is it time for Democrats to move on and look at the fundamentals of this race and not see these trials as somehow this X factor that's going to have a huge influence on how this thing turns out in November?
Yeah, I think that we have to, because the fundamentals right now, frankly, are depressing. And we have all of these events, and they change little or nothing.
So that's even what Abby Phillips and James Carville are now publicly saying on CNN, which is, look, guys, I mean, you notice they don't really care whether or not he's guilty. Of course, it was never about that. But this isn't working for us politically. And this whole idea they had, hey, let's kind of push Trump out of the election by making him stuck in court. And maybe if he's a convicted felon, people won't want to vote for him. They're now admitting, I don't think this whole idea is going to work. And you notice Abby Phillips there making the argument that let's just return to the fundamentals of the election. Let's try to win on the issues instead, which is a crazy idea. You would think shouldn't that have been the entire strategy for a Republican or Democrat to begin with? So it's kind of hilarious to hear them say, yeah, now in May 2024, maybe we should start actually talking about the issues of substance that people are going to be voting on. But still, the problem with that, as a matter of fact, is that Democrats do not win on the fundamentals, do they? That is the flaw in Abby and James's logic here, and I'm not sure they're really ready to realize that. You look at the economy. Let's take, honestly, even the objective statistics out of this, which are still not good for Biden, but let's subtract that because it's an election. It's going to be an issue of voter perception, right? On the economy, Biden is way behind Trump in approval rating. On immigration on the southern border, do I even have to say it? He is way underwater, and a lot of the polls here are suggesting that may be a top issue, or if not the top issue, that people will be voting on when they go to the polls. Okay, the sheer fact of the matter is Democrats do not win on the issues. I think they knew about this starting back in, say, 2023, and that's why they said we may have to make the legal stuff be the X factor. Yeah, Trump will win on the issues, but surely it's going to damage his campaign when the court cases come, and then you lose the court cases. The sheer fact of the matter is now you do not have an X factor. And so when they say return to the fundamentals, my question there is, what does that even mean? Because unless that means returning to the election law tactics that they used back in, say, I don't know, 2020, I really can't get a strong sense of what they're even thinking there. I don't think that trying to make Trump versus Biden on the political issues is going to go any better for them than trying to scream at the wall saying January 6th, prison, felon, all this stuff. If anything, the latter is actually a more effective political strategy, even if it's not that effective in itself, but it is what it is. Let them screw themselves over. Let them have their own problems. I don't really care. But it is kind of funny to hear the cope session that is going on CNN from all of these different people. Meanwhile, Donald Trump seems pretty unbothered by it all. Here was him speaking on Monday, basically shifting his focus to the campaign and the election while he's stuck in court, kind of multitasking. Check out what he had to say.
The New York Times just came out with a poll that shows us leading everywhere by a lot. This is the cover story, and I think you'll find it very interesting, but I'm sure you've all read it. Leading in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan, Georgia, and Nevada. Nevada, we are leading actually by 12 points, which is generally a Democrat state. I think we're probably leading in New Jersey. We had a rally, over 100,000 people this weekend. A lot of the mainstream media didn't want to say how many people. They didn't want to cover it. But in fact, I don't think anybody did. I hear the crowd was not shown by the mainstream media, which is what they tell me, but that's par for the course. A couple of quotes that just came out. Fareed Zakaria, no friend of mine. The Trump trial is politically motivated. I doubt the New York indictment would have been brought against a defendant whose name was not Donald Trump. Mark Levin, great guy, brilliant man. Our judicial system has blown up. It's broken. Andrew McCarthy. Trump should be acquitted in Manhattan, wholly independent of the plethora of constitutional infirmities in the prosecution. It should be thrown out for the most basic of reasons. Bragg cannot prove his case. Got no evidence. And I'm innocent. This is a political witch hunt, and nobody's ever seen anything like it. And I tell you what, the appellate division on the judges should step in, because what this judge is getting away with is disgraceful, including the fact that we have thousands of people, we have 100,000 people in New Jersey. They would like to show their support. It's like an armed camp outside. You can't get one person within 3 blocks of this courthouse. Greg Jarrett, we're not, I mean, you take a look at this statement. We're entering the 4th week, and there's still no evidence whatsoever connecting Trump with any criminal wrongdoing. A crime that's not charged. It's a crime that in which prosecutors won't even tell the defendant what it is. I have no idea what they've been doing. We have records, and they talk about bookkeeping. The only thing down in the bookkeeping is that we call a legal expense a legal expense. We don't call it a construction expense. We don't say for concrete work. We don't say for electrical work. We paid a lawyer a legal expense. And we have a legal expense is a legal expense. It's marked down in the book, quote, legal expense. It's perfectly marked down. The other side doesn't know how to handle it, but they say, let's indict him anyway, because that's what Biden, this all comes from Biden in the White House, by the way. And they have their top people here. Because when he can't put 2 sentences together, he's the worst president in the history of our country. Can't speak, can't walk off a helicopter, can't walk off a plane, can't walk off a stage. And the only way they think they can win is if they can do something with Trump. Because we have an incompetent, the worst president in the history of the United States of America. Jonathan Turley, after Bragg closes the prosecution's case, the defense will make a standard motion for dismissal. Mershon, who is so corrupt and so conflicted, like no judge has ever been, and the press doesn't want to write about it, but you know exactly what we're saying. Mershon should grant that motion for dismissal. There's been no showing of a crime. They failed to protect the rights of the defendant from a baseless, politically motivated prosecution. That's Jonathan Turley. All very talented legal experts. But the big thing today seems to be the Times. I'm sure the Times is thrilled, but I respect them for at least letting it come out. And there it is. It's Trump leading by a lot in every state. Every swing state leading by a lot. This trial is rigged. It's dishonest. It's a disgrace to New York. It's a disgrace to the country. I should be out campaigning now instead of sitting in a very cold courthouse all day long. This is a Biden prosecution. It's election interference at a level that nobody in this country has ever seen before. This is for third world countries, not for the USA. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so there you have it. Obviously, Trump lays out a lot of legal evidence, and we know that this entire trial is bogus. But notice what he starts with there, the important point that maybe the Democrats are starting to realize is that it is not working politically. That's the biggest thing. You know, swing states, Trump is leading. Trump recently just kind of followed the advice I was hinting at a couple weeks ago, where instead of doing a rally in New York, he did one in New Jersey. Okay, close enough. 100,000 people showed up in the territory, at least I will say, of those northeastern New York, New Jersey area Democrats. It's not working. It's not working. And that's the biggest point. And we'll have to see what happens next. But with that said, folks, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Do you think Trump will get a conviction or an acquittal in this case? Again, I think it's all really going to come down to how corrupt did they choose the jury. But I think when you also consider, hey, even though it's in Manhattan, all you need is one juror to be on our side. And in a criminal case, that's a acquittal, right? You need a unanimous jury to vote to convict you. And even in New York, even with the corrupt jury selection, is that going to happen? Good question. We'll have to find out. Okay, folks, be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. And until next time, Alpha Moves Only. God bless. Have a very great rest of your night and peace.